Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am Caleb Calhoun. Dave Hooker is still out sick, so we will be doing, again, a shortened show, an hour to an hour and 15 minutes-ish. But that doesn't mean we don't have a lot to talk about on this Wednesday afternoon. I hope you guys are all having a great Wednesday. Still a lot of news regarding Tennessee's quarterback situation, the transfers, Nico Iamaleava, Joey Aguilar. And we're going to get to more details on that. A lot of interesting stuff that just came out yesterday. One, Joey Aguilar's NIL money. All of a sudden, Tennessee got some money to find some more talent. Now, can they in the spring transfer portal? That's the tough question. But maybe this might entice some people to enter the portal. We'll talk a little bit about that. We also have more details. And I know I've said that a bunch of times, guys, but there's even more details on Nico Iamaleava's departure from Tennessee. Chris Lowe of ESPN wrote a story on it Wednesday, or that came out this morning. We're going to talk about a lot of the things that were said in there. Very intriguing stuff, honestly. And I just don't think, as much as I know you guys don't like the train, don't like us beating the train, there's a lot in there that we just can't ignore. I'm sorry, we just can't. So we're going to talk a lot about that. On top of that, we got this day in Tennessee sports history. We got the stat of the day. Arkansas hinting at a lawsuit of Madden Iamaleava. Could Tennessee follow suit with Nico, and will this change the landscape of NIL and college football in general? And finally, a Vanderbilt scout decided to take a shot at Tennessee in a very unprofessional way. We're going to talk about that. It was a pretty, it's something that you just don't say, if I'm being honest. But hey, what can you do? That's what some people like to do. So we're going to address that. Wasn't a good look, but anyways, still a good bit to get to, even in a shortened show. So a lot of fun to have, a lot of things to talk about. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We're live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get right into it with today's tough question. Chris Lowe of ESPN. We got two stories, by the way, we're getting out of Chris Lowe today. But first off, Chris Lowe of ESPN sent out a tweet last night that Joey Aguilar's NIL deal, and he cited Pete Thamel of this. So actually, I got to give Pete Thamel the credit. Excuse me. Pete Thamel of ESPN is reporting that Joey Aguilar's NIL deal with Tennessee is in the $1.2 million range. Now, that may seem like a lot, but Tennessee is actually saving roughly $1.2 million because reportedly Nico Iamaleava was making $2.4 million in that range. So with that in mind, Tennessee all of a sudden has $1.2 million worth of extra NIL funds to try to find talent. There is a spring portal window that closes on Friday, so it's very quick that they got to move and they got to try to target some guys, but they could target some people. And with that in mind, don't think for a second that they may not be able to add some players. Typically, less talented players are the ones who leave the spring portal window because they didn't want a starting job at the school they're at. That's different, though, when you have extra NIL funds and you can just bribe people and tamper to leave. So that's going to lead us to today's tough question. And today's tough question is brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Why settle? Does the extra NIL funds that the Vols are getting with Joey Aguilar make them better than they would have been with Nico Iamaleava? And that's the poll question right now. And I'm setting it up right now for you guys. Do the extra NIL funds, or I'll say this, will the extra NIL funds with Joey Aguilar make the Vols better than they would have been with Nico? and we'll say yes, no, and then we'll say they were already better with Aguilar. Or how about this? Here we go. So here's the question. And the poll question's coming up now. Will the extra NIL funds with Joey Aguilar make the Vols better than they would have been with Nico? Yes, no, they're better just with Aguilar. They're better with Aguilar anyway. Go ahead and vote on that right now. Go ahead and vote on the poll question. It's up. Will the extra NIL funds with Joey Aguilar make the Vols better than they would have been with Nico? Yes, no, they're better with Aguilar anyway. I'm going to give my thoughts on this now. And to a quick correction for me, yes, the portal closes on Friday, but as GBO Kyle Beach says, you can still take players out of the portal Friday. That's correct. Thank you, Kyle. There's a lot of talented players Tennessee could go after in the portal for this. So the question again, will Tennessee's extra NIL funds with Joey Aguilar make the Vols better than they would have been with Nico? I'm going to say yes. Yesterday, we talked about whether or not Joey Aguilar is an upgrade for the Vols over Nico Iamaleava. I said he's a partial upgrade. He will be better for Tennessee than they were last year with Nico, but he will not be better for them than they would have been with Nico this year. However, that did not take into account the increased level of talent that they could get around Joey Aguilar now that they could not get around Nico Iamaleava because of $1.2 million. Guys, that's a lot of money for non-quarterbacks. Put it that way. That's a lot of money for non-quarterbacks. And so according to CBS Sports and things I've been looking at, this is back in 2024. Now it's totally changed now, but NIL deals for non-quarterbacks, things like running backs, or how about defensive linemen typically range from $200,000 to $600,000. We're talking running backs, $200,000 to $300,000, wide receivers, $75,000 to $300,000. Offensive linemen, $350,000 to roughly, we would say maybe $600,000, $350,000 to $500,000. You guys see where I'm going with this here? You can get three other skill position, not just skill positions. You can get three other non-quarterback position players, elite non-quarterback position players with the extra $1.2 million in NIL funds. Yeah, you can get three others. I'm not kidding on this. This is a huge deal, guys. I think there's no way around it. Tennessee's going to be better. What if Tennessee gets... I think Tennessee's wide receiver room is actually already better than it was this past year. I don't think the way everybody else thinks that they're going to go after a wide receiver. I think they're very happy with who they have, and Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, potentially Boo Carter backing up Braylon Staley and Chris Brazzell. I think that's a great Matthews, Brazzell, and then Staley and Carter. I think where they're really going to look probably is on the offensive line. They still need more help. Right now, they seem to have just bodies, and they don't have any options if somebody gets hurt. I mean, they're relying on a freshman right tackle in David Sanders to fill that void. Obviously, on the left side, they have Lance Hurd, so they need more help at tackle. They certainly need more help on the interior because right now it's William Satterwhite and a couple other guys. But William Satterwhite, Wendell Moe, and Sam Pendleton, the two transfers. But if I were Tennessee, I would go for three key players. I'd go for another cornerback because of Jermon McCoy's injury. I would open up the checkbook for another cornerback. I'd spend $400,000 on a cornerback based on the NIL markets right now. If I'm Tennessee, how about this? How about I just go here? I'd spend $300,000 on a cornerback. Then I would go and spend $600,000. How about this? No, I'll spend $300,000 on a cornerback, and then that leaves me $900,000. I'd spend $500,000 on a defensive lineman and $400,000 on an offensive lineman. Defensive lineman market's a little bit more premium, so I'd spend $500 on a defensive lineman, $400 on an offensive lineman. I would go that route. I wouldn't focus on the skill players. I think they're better. I get people talking about the BYU wide receiver that's in the transfer portal right now. His name, I believe, is Keelan Marion, and he's 6 feet, 195 pounds. Tennessee has offered him. He is visiting Tennessee this weekend. I think the value that they see in him is as a kickoff returner as much as a receiver, and he is an All-American. I think this is one of those situations where you have your needs filled, but if a guy as good as Keelan Marion is in the portal, you go after him. So it's possible Tennessee – it's one of those things where, okay, You may have Clyde Drexler, but Michael Jordan's in the draft. You should take him. That might be Tennessee's thinking with Keelan Marion because he is that good. So we'll see how that works out. But with or without Marion, Tennessee's fine at wide receiver, I believe. I do think Marion would make them so dominant in the slot, though. Oh my gosh, Marion in the slot with them would be incredible. So unless they can get Marion, I would focus my money on the offensive and defensive lines and in the secondary. But giving Joey Aguilar another weapon at receiver would be a big benefit. So I think Tennessee going after Keelan Marion is a huge bonus. I just think personally they should go for a couple of linemen and another cornerback given Jerron McCoy's injury. So that's my thoughts. Again, in general, though, I definitely think that the extra NIL funds make them better with Joey Aguilar, not necessarily because of Joey Aguilar, but because they are going to have more help. The show represented by Banks & Jones. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Please vote on the poll question. Will the extra NIL funds with Joey Aguilar make the Vols better than they would have been with Nico? Yes, no, they're better with Aguilar anyway. Quick message from Banks & Jones.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. The poll question: will the extra NIL funds make Joey Aguilar make the Vols better than they would have been with Nico? We have almost 40 people voting on that poll question now. 61% say yes, 26% say no. Interesting. And 13% say they were better with Aguilar anyway. So 13% of you say it doesn't matter because Joey Aguilar is better than Nico Iamaleava. That's about roughly 75% though saying in some way, shape, or form they're better now because of this situation, which means Tennessee upgraded with Joey Aguilar. As far as the top transfer portal targets right now, obviously Tennessee is not going after a quarterback anymore. But when you look at available targets, most of them have been swept up. If you go through like the top, I would say, I know the transfer portal is still open, but the top 50, only one player is still available. That player is Brainerd Gooden, South Florida defensive lineman transfer. That's one you could target. I just said Tennessee needs a defensive lineman. If you want another receiver, Michael Hudson, that's a Texas A&M transfer. So that would be kind of intriguing to see if they could land him. We're going to have to see where other players go. I know the thoughts with the BYU receiver, Keelan Marion, and I get that. But at the same time, there are a lot of other questions surrounding him. He is a 4-star. 6 feet, 195 pounds. But as far as everything goes, it doesn't look like he's one of the top 50 players on the 247 Sports transfer portal rankings that I'm looking at right now. So if it was me, I'm talking, and maybe I'll talk about this tomorrow, about players that they should go with. Brainerd Gooden is the first one they should look at, the South Florida transfer defensive lineman. Micah Hudson is actually rated higher than Marion. He's a Texas A&M transfer wide receiver. I don't know if Tennessee's going to go after him. They can't actually because he's Texas A&M. So, and you can't go after SEC guys. Jeremiah Wilson, the Houston cornerback, another one that would be good. Emmanuel Carnley, the cornerback from Miami, is a top transfer portal guy. These are the most highly rated available ones that I'm going through. Akilo Stone from Ole Miss, transfer portal guy, defensive lineman. Trevor Pena, wide receiver from Syracuse, transfer portal guy. He's out and he's available. And then TJ Ferguson, interior offensive lineman from Florida State. Florida State poached a couple of Tennessee receivers. Wouldn't be bad for them to go after him. And then Bo Atkinson, an edge from North Carolina, is in the transfer portal. Hakeem Williams, another wide receiver. If I'm Tennessee, like my ranking on this, the guys I'm targeting first, yeah, I'm going all in on Brainerd Gooden. I think Tennessee needs one more defensive lineman to have the rotation they had last year. And then I'm going in on, I'll go ahead and say Keelan Marion. I'm going in on, no, I'll take that back. I'm going to go in on Jeremiah Wilson next, the Houston cornerback. you need a cornerback and a defensive lineman. So I'm going in on both of them. And then, yeah, I'm going to go for the Florida State transfer that is on the offensive line. I just think that whatever you may think, Tennessee needs more bodies on the interior offensive lineman. I'm talking about TJ Ferguson. All our 4-star transfer portal guys, I would go for all of them. And so we will see what they do with all of that. But from my perspective, I think that Tennessee should go hard after those 3 guys. And then Keelan Marion would be my 4th guy. That would be my main one. And Kyle Beach says the wide receiver from Syracuse wanting $2 million. Yeah, ain't nobody picking up a $2 million wide receiver. So that's just how it is. Now, this is a different question. GBMFO has a great point. I'm not going to say what I'm pretty sure GBMFO stands for. I'm sorry, but I like your comment, GBMFO. It says play our young recruits. I hate our coaches won't play the kids. I kind of am starting to feel you on that, GBMFO. It does seem to feel like Josh Heupel, rather than put faith in the recruits he found, he just goes straight for the portal to offset losses. And it's like, does he not have any faith in his recruiting ability? We're going to talk about that. That's a conversation for another day, but that's a really intriguing one. So just keep tabs on that. You're not entirely wrong. And I wonder why that is, because he does seem to have a complete lack of faith in what he's doing. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that later, because that is kind of interesting with the way you said that. So taking all that into account, I think the final take on this is that the extra NIL funds, again, for those of you who don't know, Joey Aguilar is making $1.2 million. That's $1.2 million less than what Nico Iamaleava was making. I do believe the extra NIL funds will make Tennessee better. Again, today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones. Now it's time for the stat of the day. And the stat of the day is brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Stat of the day is going to shock you guys. No matter who starts for Tennessee at quarterback when the Vols open the season against Syracuse, that will be the 4th quarterback to have started under Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Josh Heupel will be opening his 5th game of the season. You want to know who else started exactly 4 quarterbacks through the opener of, I'm sorry, not the 5th game of the season. That'll be the opening game of his 5th season. So when Tennessee opens the season against Syracuse, Josh Heupel will have started his 4th quarterback at Tennessee to that point. Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, Nico Iamaleava. Those are the only 3 he started so far. That actually ties Butch Jones, Philip Fulmer, and Johnny Majors. All of them had started exactly 4 quarterbacks through the opening game of their 5th season. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Kind of an interesting thought. The only one who started more among all of them was Bill Battle, who had started 5 through the first game of his 5th season. And that's because after starting Bobby Scott in 1970, he started 3 quarterbacks in 1971, Dennis Chadwick, Phil Pierce, and Jim Maxwell. Then he started Condrich Holloway in 72 and Condrich Holloway all of 73. And Holloway opened the 74 season. So we're not talking about who started the most quarterbacks through the end of their 5th season. We're talking about which coaches had started the most quarterbacks at Tennessee through the opening game of their 5th season. And in that case, of the modern era of quarterbacks, Bill Battle leads the way with 5. Butch Jones, Philip Fulmer, Johnny Majors, and Josh Heupel all started for. Derek Dooley and Jeremy Pruitt and Lane Kiffin did not last 5 years. None of them lasted more than 3. So that's why they aren't on this list. Once again, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. When we come back, we're going to talk about more details about Nico Iamaleava in the transfer portal and how he got there. Chris Lowe broke some more stuff. I'm going to talk about the stuff we didn't know, and we'll play a little harder cold. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Caleb Calhoun here. Again, Dave out sick. We are the show represented by Banks & Jones, and we are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. I want to share something that you need to know. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. Dave was in the buying process, and honestly, he was a little picky. He wanted a Bronco initially, but he needed someone to walk him through the options. Andy and Nick White had him covered while he was trying to decide on just what car he wanted to go with. He had no doubt that he would leave with a quality vehicle because that's all they carry at Ted Russell Ford Lincoln on Kingston Pike and Parkside Drive. After one meeting, he left knowing what he should expect for the vehicle or vehicles he wanted. Then it was just a matter of making up his mind. You won't believe this. Nick told him if he doesn't hear from him soon enough to call a cell. That's called 5-star customer service with no pressure. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln on Kingston Pike and Parkside Drive. If you want to stop at lot after lot and waste precious time, that's an option, but why? Ted Russell Ford Lincoln has perfected the buying process. As for Dave's Bronco, well, he ended up not getting one. He went with the Jeep instead. The good news is he had plenty of time to decide with Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. I know, and you know, and he knew that they would have whatever vehicle that he decided upon once he got on their lot. After all, they're East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer. Whether it's partnering with local businesses or sending someone home in their first car, Ted Russell Ford Lincoln loves to be a part of special moments in East Tennessee. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln views it as an honor to serve their friends and neighbors. That's why they're so committed to providing exceptional customer service. There's nothing better than driving off in the car of your dreams, and Ted Russell Ford Lincoln believes it's a pleasure to help people do just that every day. Do yourself a favor. If you want a fantastic vehicle at a great price and a smile on your face as you drive off the lot, stop by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln on Kingston Pike and Parkside Drive. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is the exclusive vehicle provider and studio sponsor of Off the Hook Sports, and also prices not affected by tariffs. So check them out now. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln on Kingston Pike and Parkside Drive. All right. Well, we are continuing with our coverage, and it's a lot more about Tennessee and their quarterback situation. Chris Lowe of ESPN came out and released more details on Nico Iamaleava's departure. Some of it we knew, some of it we had known for a while at Tennessee, things he had asked for, and that they wanted $4 million, that they wanted more help, and things like that. But there are more details now on exactly how this all played out. And we're going to play a little hot or cold with new details that we learned from this report. Again, I encourage you guys all to read it. Chris Lowe's article on ESPN. Very intriguing, very interesting. So hot or cold, let's start now. This is the saga that we didn't know about Nico Iamaleava and his process of leaving Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava reportedly needed a excuse me, guys, mental break after Tennessee lost 42-17 to Ohio State. Yes, that's right. Nico Iamaleava needed a mental break after Tennessee lost 42-17 to Ohio State. That alone is a question. I'm going to play hot or cold. Hot if I think it's a big deal. Cold if it's not a big deal. I'm hot. This is a big deal. I get the whole taking a loss personally, being upset, whatever, but a mental break? What are we talking about with a mental break here? Are we talking about trying to improve and do things that are needed to be done? Or are we talking about a mental break in terms of, honestly, are we talking about a mental break in terms of he didn't take the loss well and he didn't have confidence in himself? There's a lot to ask about needing a mental break. I'm sorry, but that just doesn't add up. Something about that doesn't jive. And so Nico Iamaleava needing a mental break after his loss is I'm hot on that as far as that's a big deal. There's something really, really, really off with that. Also, hot or cold, as he was trying to renegotiate his NIL deal, he reached out to multiple schools in the winter portal. We know about Oregon telling them they tried to contact him. We've already covered that, so I'm not talking about that. But reaching out to multiple schools in the winter portal was a new report. I'm actually going to tell you guys I'm cold on this being a big deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think you guys would be shocked to know that so many players tamper with other schools to try to renegotiate leverage for more NIL when they're at Tennessee. I don't actually think that's as big of a deal as many think. I think that's more commonplace and par for the course when it comes to how teams and players are in the NIL age, believe it or not. Missed 2 off-season workouts in February and was advised by his father to miss workouts until he renegotiated his NIL deal. His team claims this was about missed payments from Spire Sports. Big deal. If there's a discrepancy like that with your NIL collective after the portal closes and after you've committed back, it's a reflection on either you or the collective. Either Tennessee's collective is not up to snuff in what it's doing and not as on top of things as we all thought it was for a while, or Nico Iamaleava's team is lying and they were just causing more chaos, which I'm not saying that's wrong or crazy. I'm just saying that's what it seems like was happening, and that could really, really hurt team chemistry going forward if that happened. Sources at USC, Notre Dame, UNC, Texas Tech, and several other Power 4 programs said they were uninterested in Nico Iamaleava after he entered the portal. This is hot. This is actually one of the biggest stories that Chris Lowe leaked. That schools were we all speculated that he settled at UCLA. We didn't realize how uninterested other schools were. He's a perfect fit for USC and Lincoln Riley, who runs the same offense as Josh Heupel. That's as good of a fit as you could ask for. The other reason I'm hot on this is that if those schools were uninterested in Nico, if that implies Nico contacted them, if this was about the offense, which we've heard, why would you contact USC and Lincoln Riley, who are in the same offense? That makes sense, doesn't it? Why would you contact Texas Tech? Okay, Notre Dame and UNC, I get it. But the others make no sense. This is a big deal in a couple of ways. I'm very hot on the fact that this is a big deal. It shows that schools are willing to play ball with Tennessee to reset the NIL market, which is a huge part of this. But it also shows that USC and Tennessee and Notre Dame, UNC, Texas Tech, it shows that by looking at USC and Texas Tech, the Iamaleava family might have been lying about saying it was about the offense if they were indeed looking at USC and Texas Tech. Another part of this, Iamaleava's side claims it was about getting more help, More pass protection, in particular, after a concussion at Mississippi State, better wide receivers. Now, not a big deal. I don't think that's as uncommon as you think with quarterbacks, because that's what quarterbacks do in the NFL. That's what players do in the NFL. They want more help. That's in the age of free agency and the NIL and negotiations. That's how this works, is players want more help. Here's the problem. This has always been my issue with quarterbacks in the NFL that command a huge salary. You can't take all the money and then complain about not getting the help. This was like when Aaron Rodgers took $50 million from the Packers and then was complaining about certain players leaving. You can't do that. That's just not how this works. Okay? If you take all the money, you can't complain about the lack of help. That's the same with college. Nico Iamaleava was making $2.4 million and was reportedly trying to negotiate a $4 million deal. How do you expect to get more help when you're doing that? Sorry. That's just not how that works. Now, here's one that's a big deal, but we don't know if it's true. They claim Josh Heupel made false promises. That's a potential big deal. Now, the reason that's a potential big deal is how much is Josh Heupel misleading recruits when he's signing them? Now, let me put this up front. All coaches somewhat have to mislead recruits. Recruiting is selling. Recruiting, getting players to sign with you. It's even worse now in the age of NIL. You have to convince them some certain things to keep them to stay, and you can't really abuse your power or they'll leave, and then the market will work against you. So what level is Josh Heupel taking this? We don't know. The Iamaleava camp could maybe just interpreted something as a false promise, and Heupel could be like, I said this, and I honored the commitment. It's not my fault you interpreted it this way. That could be very possible. Look, Heupel did add Wendell Moe and Sam Pendleton, the two guards, in the offseason as transfers, as Nico Iamaleava was reportedly asking for more pass protection. So it seems like he was working with them and trying to bend over backwards to help them. So honestly, I think it's not a big deal. I think this is more recruiting, how players sometimes feel when they don't get exactly what they want from coaches. That's where that's at. Hot or Cold is brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. City Heat and Air. cityheatandair.com. We're going to talk a little bit more about the details the week of what happened when Iamaleava transferred away from Tennessee. First, a quick message from City Heating and Air Conditioning.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. There's your fair.
All right, a couple more, guys, on what happened the week of. And this is all a big deal because it really, really, really makes Nico Iamaleava look bad. So it turns out, it sounds like Iamaleava did not leave or transfer from Tennessee over the On3 report. Nico Iamaleava reportedly told a teammate on Wednesday that he was entering the portal. And the teammate went to Heupel and told him, and Heupel reportedly confronted Nico without naming the teammate to smooth things over. And then the report leaked on Thursday. Guys, this is a big deal. This changes everything, because if that's the case, if he told him on Wednesday he was entering the portal, then this has everything to do with them not liking certain things about how portrayed and how it played out in spring practice, and that they were always planning this departure, and that it wasn't about the On3 report. So that's a huge deal. That makes Tennessee and Josh Heupel look even better. And so, quite honestly, that's a really big deal. Now, here's a bigger deal, because this actually plays into, this isn't just about Nick Iamaleava. We're blaming the parent, but it looks like the kid has some of his own issues too. According to Lowe's report. So remember, Iamaleava reportedly told a teammate he was entering the portal Wednesday. The On3 report leaks Thursday. Iamaleava, Nico Iamaleava, not Nick, Nico Iamaleava, reportedly at his own discretion, ghosted Tennessee at practice all Friday and didn't answer questions from Heupel, didn't get in contact with him because he felt, quote, hurt and betrayed by the report. His father, Nick Iamaleava, actually encouraged him to meet face-to-face with the team, and he chose not to. So, guys, this leads to another story. Nico Iamaleava is a bigger problem than we thought. It's not just Nico Iamaleava's father. Nico Iamaleava is an issue because even his father was telling him he needs to meet with Heupel and the team, and he wouldn't do it. He felt hurt and betrayed by the report, even though the day before he told a teammate he was going to enter the transfer portal. That is completely a reflection on Nico Iamaleava and not just Nick Iamaleava. So I'm going to actually pose this as a poll question. Is the problem with Nico Iamaleava solely due to his father? And I would say yes. And then I would say no, Nico is part of the problem too. How about Nico bears? Nico is culpable too. Okay, so here we go. Is the problem with Nico Iamaleava solely due to his father? Yes. No, Nico is culpable too. You guys can vote on that on the poll question. I think this Crystal report makes it very, very, very clear that Nico Iamaleava is culpable too, and maybe even more culpable. To sit there and say you felt hurt and betrayed by a report that leaked Thursday when on Wednesday you told a teammate you were entering the transfer portal? Now, maybe you felt hurt and betrayed, but maybe this report came because of the teammate. Maybe that's how this all worked. Okay, I'm speculating that that could have been what was the case. So, and maybe he felt hurt and betrayed by the teammate going to Heupel because that's how this got out. I don't know. So, but at the end of the day, Nico telling a teammate Wednesday he was entering the portal, and then against even the wishes of his father, ghosting everybody on Friday. I don't think we can sit there and give Nico the pass any more than we thought. That's totally on Nico at that point. So I got to be honest, Nico Iamaleava, we can't give him the break that we were giving him. You know, I felt bad for him. I thought his father was very much part of the problem, but if he's standing up to his father on that front, then it seems like he is able to make some of his own decisions, and he's just choosing not to do it. And that's just not a good look. That's quite honestly pretty embarrassing. It's a very, very, very bad look for Nico. And I think it's something that, it is a character flaw. And if you feel hurt and betrayed like that, where you ghost practice for a day, you don't have the intangibles to be a quarterback. Not just in the SEC. I'm not going to say in the SEC. You don't have the intangibles to be a quarterback anywhere. Okay, because that's just embarrassing. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. That's HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we got more Iamaleava saga to have fun with because looks like Arkansas might be suing Madden Iamaleava. Should Tennessee follow suit? And is this going to open up more prospects for schools to fight back in the NIL age? We're going to talk about that. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports. Stick with us here.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln, Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Caleb Calhoun here again, live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio. The show brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. We got more Iamaleava news to get to, and it's very intriguing because it involves Madden Iamaleava. Arkansas Razorbacks athletic director Hunter Yurachek has spoken publicly after Madden Iamaleava transferred from Arkansas to join his brother Nico Iamaleava at UCLA. And he's hinting that they are going to fight back on Nico against the Iamaleavas for this decision. Hunter Yurachek sent out a message on Twitter yesterday that said, quote, "I have spoken with the leadership team at Arkansas Edge," for those who don't know, that's the NIL collective at Arkansas. And he said, "and expressed my support in their pursuit to enforce their rights under any agreement violated by our student athletes moving forward. We appreciate Edge's investment in our student athletes and acknowledge the enforcement of these agreements is vital in our new world of college athletics. We look forward to continued dialogue with all parties and resolving these matters." Does that mean Arkansas is suing Madden Iamaleava? Does that mean Madden Iamaleava entered into some sort of deal with Arkansas Edge and by transferring out violated that deal? If that's the case, could Tennessee then sue Nico Iamaleava? Could other schools start suing players who transfer out after they gave them a lot of NIL money? How much does this reset the NIL market if this starts happening? Or is this just because Arkansas and Arkansas Edge had a successful collective and they were upfront and making sure that the language in their contract would make sure it was would require players to uphold it to a certain degree? Is this just kudos to Arkansas's NIL collective for signing better contracts? How does this all work? Well, how about this? Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Bank on it. I think Arkansas is going to massively reset the NIL market following Tennessee resetting the NIL market. I'm not going to say I think. No, just bank on it. Arkansas is going to further reset the NIL market after what Tennessee just did with Nico Iamaleava by implying a threatened lawsuit against players who transfer out, in particular Madden Iamaleava. Bank on it. Arkansas is resetting the NIL market.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank.
Yes, bank on it. The NIL market is being reset by Arkansas suing Madden Iamaleava. We're going to put that up as the poll question now. Should the Vols sue Nico Iamaleava? First, a quick response to the previous poll question. Is the problem with Nico Iamaleava solely due to his father? 13% say yes, but 87% say no, Nico is culpable too. Have to agree with the 87%. So on this one, should the Vols sue Nico Iamaleava? We'll say yes, no, they have no standing, or they have no legal grounds. There we go. So you guys vote on this. Should the Vols sue Nico Iamaleava? Yes, no, they have no legal grounds. We're going to continue with this topic. First portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. Getting back to it. Should they sue Nico? Again, this depends on the language in the contract, guys. There are reports that Nico Iamaleava was not showing up for certain Spire Sports obligations. At the same time, there are reports that he didn't do some things because he legally didn't have to, and his dad would tell people he legally didn't have to. So you can kind of play this however you want to play it. It's debatable whether or not Nico actually violated any part of his contract. That's still something that we kind of have to figure out. I'm not sure if he did. But with what Arkansas is saying with Madden Iamaleava, if Arkansas sues Madden, that means that Arkansas, that other schools are going to start following suit. Now, there's also just kind of the idea of spirit of the contract. And then there's this other idea of it might go state by state. Guys, contract law is different from state to state on what can and can't be enforced, okay? This is one of the trickiest parts of any sort of law is how is a contract law enforced? As a matter of fact, contract law and patent law, you ask Supreme Court justices, the most difficult cases they've ever dealt with, they're not going to talk about the hot button ones that everybody thinks about. They don't talk about those at all. They usually have a set judicial philosophy on those. The toughest ones are patent laws and contract laws and who is in violation of them at different times. And they're so complicated. That's a lot of what the Supreme Court does. And it's very hard because every state has their own contract laws. And in many cases, the contract laws are vague. So state Supreme Courts too, for that matter. So this is very interesting in how it could play out. Is Arkansas saying Madden Iamaleava just violated the spirit of the contract and that's enough in Arkansas to sue? Possible. Now, it doesn't matter what's the law in California because this contract was probably signed in Arkansas. So, and the contract was probably the same for Nico Iamaleava in Tennessee. I doubt the contract was signed in California. So it depends on what state the contract is in. And look, I think there's a very, very strong possibility that Arkansas is going to sue. And I think they're trying to help reset the NIL market. They are following suit with what Tennessee did by doing that. And guys, everybody should celebrate on that because I am very much in favor of suing, of players making money in the NIL age. But it's gone way to the other side. And there are now ways that you got to figure out to mitigate it. And people keep talking about a salary cap. You're not going to get a salary cap, even if the players are unionized, because I keep trying to insist this. The bulk of the money for these players isn't coming from the schools paying them. It's coming from endorsement deals they're signing, where schools are giving them, not schools, businesses associated with the school are giving them endorsements. So they'll go to that school. That's how this is working in the NIL age. It's not pay for play. That's what you have to understand. It's not pay for play. And because of that, you can't regulate it, even if the players unionize, even if Congress sets up some guardrails. There is no way you can limit what a player can make on the endorsement market without violating antitrust agreements. You can't. It's literally impossible. So I just think that I think that's the one part where it's going to be hard. However, those businesses that do endorsements can put language in their contract to make sure players have to fulfill obligations, whether or not that's playing for the school for a certain amount of time, doing this, doing that, doing whatever. And that's where all of this changes. So the question is, should the Vols sue Nico Iamaleava? 46% of you are saying yes. 54% of you are saying they have no legal grounds. Guys, let's keep voting on this. I'm really intrigued. The question could be, is there anything in the contract that Tennessee wrote that would allow them to sue? So again, we don't know everything that's in the contract language, but how about just, could the Vols sue him? Could the Vols sue him? I mean, that's very, very, very intriguing. We don't know how it would all work. Put it this way. I'll say this much. As GBMFO says, in front of an Arkansas judge, he's losing. That's true. You get them in front of a certain judge in a state, they could definitely lose just based on the biases of that judge. On top of that, you can send a message just by suing sometimes. Sometimes you can make an impact just by suing, even if you don't have legal grounds. And I think there's going to be more of that in the NIL market going forward. I think this is just the start of what we might be seeing long term, because I think that this would be an incredible story if Tennessee did sue. Because remember this, Tennessee set the trend in opening up the NIL market by saying the NCAA can't get involved. If they set the trend on resetting the NIL market by joining Arkansas in a lawsuit, you're talking all of a sudden about an incredible situation where Tennessee has set every trend in the NIL market possible, and they were the ones that stabilized everything going forward. We'll see how it happens. But honestly, I think there's a great chance that if they do so, they could send a message. But at the very least, they could start putting certain language in their contracts for people have to honor them. The only question that comes with that is, will the market hurt the schools then? Because will other schools not put that language in the contract? And that's where the kids will go. I mean, that's possible too. So we're going to just have to see how this all plays out. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat now down below. When we come back, we're going to talk about a former Vanderbilt scout and Alabama player taking some shots at Tennessee and what's going on with them. We have to address it. 2 minutes. Stick with us. Off the Hook Sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake, alignments, oil change, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you. It is time for This Day in Tennessee Sports History. This Day in Tennessee Sports History brought to you by Work Trucks. We're all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app hybrid work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com, worktrucksllc.com with an X. Why risk chancing your future and business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also work to make sure that you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X. LLC.com, worktrucksllc.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. This day in Tennessee football history, a very, 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 very special happy birthday to one Joey Kent. Joey Kent turns 51 today. Joey Kent obviously played for Tennessee from 1993 to 1996 and was Peyton Manning's go-to target from 1994 through 1996. A back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver. I believe still the only player in Tennessee football history to do that in 95 and 96. And is Tennessee's all-time career leading receiver. Played 3 years with the Oilers/Titans from 97 to 99 in the NFL, and then the Colts and the Minnesota Vikings in 2000. He was first team All-SEC in both 95 and 96. So again, a major happy birthday to Joey Kent. A reliable player, a great player, a hard worker, an elite athlete, and also one who benefited from having Peyton Manning throw him the ball. Let's just call it what it is. But at the end of the day, still a very, very happy birthday to Joey Kent. I'm sure everybody remembers that Alabama game where everybody remembers that Alabama game in 95 where Joey Kent scored a touchdown on the first play of the game. So major credit to that. Before we get to our last topic of the day, again, a shortened show as Dave Hooker is out sick. But before we get to our last topic, first, a quick message from Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, which brings you this day in Tennessee sports history.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location.
Welcome back to the program. Portions of the program are brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. All righty. It's time for the final topic of the day, and it's What the H? Yes, that's right. What the H? What the H is brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TN. What the H? A 247 sports analyst who played for Alabama and once worked for Maryland and also worked for Vanderbilt has decided to go out of his way to throw a shot at Tennessee. Smoke Dixon was on a podcast or on a show yesterday with Madeline Burke and was asked about Tennessee and the situation they're in with Joey Aguilar. And he said some interesting things. So I'm just going to share this with you. Here's what Smoke Dixon said about Tennessee and Joey Aguilar.
I mean, the Vols, they made the CFP last season with Nico. So what is their ceiling this season with Aguilar?
Oh, man, you're running right back into where Jeremy Pruitt left. In my opinion, when you don't have a quarterback that can get you to 10 wins. We're talking about the team that just lost to the national champions in the playoffs. So you're going down a level and down a step in terms of quarterback play. Irregardless of what everyone thinks about Nico's ability or how he played, or how Tennessee's offense was last year in terms of heavy run, 75th in pass or 76th in passing offense, he still was a player that defensive coordinator had to stay up late at night, just because if he was on, Tennessee was almost unbeatable.
Okay. All right. Before I get going, Smoke Dixon was, in his most recent job, was the GM of Maryland, hired by Mike Loxley. And before that, he was the director of scouting at Vanderbilt. He also, before being the director of scouting at Vanderbilt, back in the day, played for Alabama. And just famously, and I have to show this, and I'm going to give him the credit for this, he had one of the most sickening plays in Tennessee-Alabama history. 2002, Tennessee-Alabama. Here is Smoke Dixon. I'm going to show the highlight, guys. If it's going to torture you, I apologize, but I'm being fully fair on who this guy is. This is 2002, Tennessee-Alabama. For those who don't remember, Tennessee had started the year ranked number 5, had stumbled to a 4-2 start due to injuries. They were banged up. They had just lost to Georgia and were coming off a bye and were trying to salvage a season that was not as good as they thought was going to be. They were hosting an Alabama team that was on probation but would finish 10-3 and in the top 25. And at the time, Tennessee was on a 7-game winning streak against Alabama. They forced a 3-and-out on Alabama's opening drive, and then they were driving to potentially score a touchdown with Casey Clausen on their drive, and then this happened.
Second
right
down,
here.
A quick out pass, gets it in the flat, and that ball is
As you
overthrown.
can see, Smoke Dixon hits it, and he runs it all the way back the other way for a touchdown. Yeah, that player who touchdown back was Smoke Dixon. Gerald Dixon was his name. So credit to that. He has every right to talk trash on that, if that's fair. However, that's an absolutely asinine statement. Okay, look, we have debated whether or not Joey Aguilar is how much of a downgrade or upgrade he is from Nico Iamaleava. I've given you guys my thoughts. That Joey Aguilar in a vacuum is a downgrade from what Nico Iamaleava would have been this year. I think Joey Aguilar is less talented than Nico. However, Joey Aguilar at Tennessee is an upgrade over Nico from last year, and Joey Aguilar at Tennessee is an upgrade, will be better than Nico is at UCLA. And also Joey Aguilar at Tennessee makes Tennessee upgrade as a team, because even though he won't be as good as Nico would have been this year at Tennessee, Tennessee now has more talent around them. To Smoke Dixon's point, let me steel man his point real quick. He said defensive coordinators had to stay up at night preparing for Nico. Look, that may not be entirely untrue, guys. There's a reason Dylan Sampson broke the all-time record for yards and touchdowns last year. Teams were selling out to that 3-3-5 shell defense to where Tennessee maybe only had 2 available deep shots a game, whereas with Hendon Hooker in 2022, they had like 7. We can't lie about that, okay? We can't pretend that, Tennessee didn't lose anybody important in Nico. No, they lost who they really wanted at quarterback for the fall. I'm just going to be honest with you in terms of talent. But we also have to be fair that it's not like the defensive coordinators were preparing for Nico because of what he showed them on the field. Defensive coordinators were selling out to take away the deep ball because of what Hendon Hooker did in Josh Heupel's offense in 2022, and also what Nico Iamaleava was hyped up to be. I think those two things had way more to do with defenses selling out and adjusting their schemes against Tennessee last year to play that shell defense than anything that Nico Iamaleava showed. And Smoke Dixon should know that as a 247 Sports analyst. So, I mean, honestly, I think that's absolutely ridiculous for Smoke Dixon to not bring that up. And I got to be honest, when I see that, you got to think that it feels like, and maybe I'm crazy, but it just feels like having worked for Vanderbilt and then played at Alabama, he's got a personal hatred of Tennessee, right? I mean, isn't that the only way to go there? I know Tennessee and other schools like to do that all the time with reporters and analysts from certain schools to say that they have a bias against their rival school. But I gotta be honest, that's a really weird statement to say. And then to say they're going back to the Jeremy Pruitt years is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, let's get this out of the way. Jeremy Pruitt, they had a quarterback during the Jeremy Pruitt years. He was just misused. I'm still a defender to a certain degree of Jared Garantano because a lot of the issues he had was Jared Garantano played for 5 different offensive coordinators. I'm sorry, he played for 4 different offensive coordinators during his 5 years at Tennessee. And the only time he returned an offensive coordinator was the COVID year when everybody took a major step back. Okay, so Jerry Garantano had a lot to deal with and was under a really bad coaching situation. I'm still not so sure Jerry Garantano wouldn't have worked out under Josh Heupel. Okay, he ended up getting NFL money. Say what you want about him, he got NFL money. He dealt with a lot. Remember the later part of the 2019 season? No one questioned Garantano during that time when he threw for 400 yards in a close win against Missouri back in 2019 and really had a strong finish to that season. So there was a lot more than just Garantano during that time. Tennessee wasn't struggling because they didn't have a quarterback. They were struggling because they didn't have the right offensive system. They had a coach who wasn't cut out to be a head coach. There were just so many other issues going on with the program during that time. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous to suggest anything different. Super chat from Timothy McGee. Hey, Negative Nancy, go to who Heupel's QBs he coached before and after. And every QB Hooker threw for 34 at Tech and went down to only throw 5 interceptions. No, Timothy, I'm with you. Heupel's quarterbacks play much better under him. Totally on your side on that. That's the point I'm making. Is Tennessee? We're talking about Tennessee going back to the Jeremy Pruitt era because of who they got a quarterback. That's ignoring the fact that the issue with Tennessee wasn't who they had a quarterback. It was how they used him. As Elias Gray points out, JG got arguably the worst hand dealt to him of any QB I've seen at Tennessee that didn't get hurt. Exactly. Totally agree. What the H brought to you by Double D Piping. A quick message from them. Double D Piping fire protection contractors providing around-the-clock service, protecting their customers' lives and properties all the time.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back. Getting back to our poll question real quick. Should the Vols free Nico Iamaleava? Out of 59 votes, 30 said yes, 29 said no. They have no legal grounds. So, man, very close here. How about this? I'm going to set up this poll question real quick. Smoke Dixon saying the Vols are going back to their Jeremy Pruitt days is somewhat valid. Just hating from a Vandy Bama guy. You guys let me know what you think about that. So yeah, Smoke Dixon saying the Vols are going back to their Jeremy Pruitt days is somewhat valid, just hating from a Vandy Bama guy. Because it does kind of look like just hating from a Vandy Bama guy, okay? So that's where I'm landing with this. Now, to a couple other points on the message board. Derek Owen says, I'm not going to simp with Jay-Z. That would be insanity to give that man one excuse. Derek, look, JG had a lot going on, was dealing with a lot more than you think during that time, particularly with the coaching staff and how everybody was handling everything. Again, I want to go back to the whole point Smoke Dixon was saying, that defensive coordinators had to adjust for Nico, and he's saying that they don't have their quarterback now. Smoke Dixon is ignoring everything that happened, as was already brought up earlier with Timothy McGee Super Chat. Thanks, Timothy. With Hendon Hooker and all these other different quarterbacks that Josh Heupel has worked with over the years. Drew Lock, quarterbacks who were nowhere near as good as they were until they played under Heupel. So you can't just fully go with what Joey Aguilar did. And saying defensive coordinators had to adjust for Nico is basing that off, yes, what they did, but you got to go deeper and understand that they adjusted last year because of Josh Heupel's reputation and Hendon Hooker. So it's a pretty kind of crazy thing to suggest that Tennessee's going to go back to the Jeremy Pruitt days because of who their quarterback is, when the issues of the quarterback oftentimes come down to coaching at Tennessee. Okay. Now, sometimes the quarterback is immune to the coaching and helps uplift the coach. Josh Dobbs, for instance, did save Butch Jones for 2 more years than he should have been saved. But at the same time, Josh Dobbs had Mike DeBoard as a offensive coordinator, and DeBoard did a heck of a job. You guys are having a great, hilarious time on the message board. I love what was said by GBMFO, or not GBMFO. Who was it that put it up? Elias Gray said it first. Said, if coaching didn't matter, Jerry DiNardo would be a Hall of Famer. Man, ain't that the truth? And a lot of people are taking shots at Jerry DiNardo. Guys, remember this. Peyton Manning does not get an SEC championship without Jerry DiNardo. because Jerry DiNardo led LSU to an upset of Florida in 1997, which opened the door for Tennessee to get back to Atlanta after they lost to Florida early in the season. However, to be fair, Jerry DiNardo was loaded with talent, as people bring up. He just wasn't the greatest coach. I mean, that's just how it was, guys. Sorry. Jerry DiNardo was not a good coach. LSU has a track record of hiring many really bad coaches. That's LSU's history, guys. So it's something that is nothing new for them. But that's just how things roll with them. Portions of the program brought to you by the UPS Store, Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated at 10629 Hardin Valley Road. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this was a shortened show today. Dave is still out sick. The show brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. We're still building something great at Off the Hook Sports here. We want you to be a part of it. A lot of fun, guys. We are live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back on tomorrow with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook